With the swearing in of Amy Coney Barrett yesterday, it has set off yet another round, I suppose, best way to put it, of, well, same thing we've been dealing with now for months and months, and maybe even years upon years on end, with really no end in sight. What am I talking about? Well, in the film Conspiracy, it's a film that I highly recommend, a recounting of the Vienna Conference of 1942, in which high-ranking officials of Nazi Germany gathered around a table for 90 minutes and essentially planned out the Holocaust from a legal standpoint. And we don't often think about it in those terms, but for whatever reason, to the Nazi Germans, the legality of murdering millions of people was important. So they argue about and they outline and they decide how they're going to legally do this under their laws. There comes a point in the story when everything is said and done, when all the decisions are made, when everybody's pounded on the table and said, let it be written, so let it be done, that three of the leaders of this meeting dismiss themselves and they go into a fireplace room, and there they sit down in large overstuffed chairs in front of a warm fireplace, and they have a little discussion. And the movie portrays this. Of course, it's apocryphal, but it fits with what's going on. The main character, of course, is Reinhard Heydrich, played by Sir Kenneth Branagh, who does just an unbelievably good job. I mean, this is a movie that I recommend, but I don't recommend. It is a very hard film to watch, but it is a very important film. Heydrich, sits in this chair. He is surrounded by a couple of his deputies, a fellow SS general, and another guy by the name of Adolf Eichmann, who is his right-hand man, his clerk, his legal attaché. And they're talking about one of the issues that has come up in the meeting. Another fellow by the name of Kritzinger has pulled Heydrich aside and wanted to talk to him. Kritzinger is very uncomfortable with what's going on, what's being said. And he wonders if he might tell the Reichsmarshal a story. And then the film cuts back to the other folks. And then later on, in this room, in this chair, the two, Eichmann and the other guy, Mueller, ask Heydrich, well, what was the story Kritzinger told you? What was the whole point of his story? And Heydrich recounts it to them. It was a man who hated his father. The same man also loved his mother very deeply, but he hated his father. He hated his father with an intensity that rivals the sun. When the man's mother died, he stood at her funeral by her graveside and found himself bereft of emotion. He couldn't feel anything. He could not cry. He felt no sadness, just the love that he'd always felt for her. But when his father died, and he went to his funeral and stood by his graveside, he found himself unable to control his emotions, and he cried uncontrollably, sobbing, falling to the ground. Neither Mueller nor Eichmann got the point of the story. And it is unclear to me whether or not Heydrich got the point of the story either. He doesn't seem to be. He dismisses it with what his actual line is, I, for one, shall not miss them. He's referring, of course, to the millions upon millions of Jews who are about to be liquidated under his language. And he's concerned that the sooner the better. And Kritzinger's warning is you hate them so much that when they're gone, then what? What will you do then? Who will you hate then? What will fill that place in your heart and your soul? And Heydrich's response is more along the lines of, I don't care. Where Eichmann and Mueller just don't get the story. When Amy Coney Barrett was sworn in yesterday as the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, it seems like it should be a moment of passing interest to most Americans. Ask 100 Americans on the street to name even 3 Supreme Court justices, and most of them will barely come up with one. Few of us know who these people are. Few of us know who these people have been in the past. I was laying in bed this morning reviewing things for today, and I was trying to recall just the Chief Justices in my lifetime. And I found it to be a struggle. I know them, but I had to work at it. I had to think about I had to think about things that had happened, even for somebody who pays attention to this stuff. It's not easy. But the hate that is flowing this morning and today because of Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation is remarkable. People who have never met Amy Coney Barrett, and I have not, people who have never met Donald Trump, have announced to the world that these people are Satan incarnate, and they hate them. They hate them with a passion that is so intense that were Trump to not be here tomorrow, or Amy Coney Barrett not be here tomorrow, they would weep at the loss of the focal point of their anger. They have promised this morning, my local news this morning is full of a story repeating over and over again about, and I'm quoting here, how the progressive Democrats are going to get back at Republicans for Amy Coney Barrett. The hatred is just thick. And it goes both ways, folks. Don't kid yourself. Don't say to yourself, well, because I'm on this side, I'm right. The hatred flowing from our side is every bit as intense. How many posts have you seen today rubbing in the fact, grinding it in, that Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed on a certain person's birthday? Do you think that ever entered into the machinations of this whole thing? Do you think anybody ever sat down and went, this day would be the day to do it? Do you really think that that's what happened? And yet we're reacting as if it is. The hate flows like the emperor himself. Good, let the hate flow. We hate each other because of elections. We hate each other because of our politics. We vote because we hate. I can't tell you how many times I've seen posts from people who have said, friends who have said, it's not that I like one side or the other, it's that I hate the other side. I hate them. They're not good enough for me. I don't care what their policies are. I don't care how I've benefited. I don't care if they've been good, bad, or indifferent. I hate them. And therefore, I must vote the other side. We hate each other because of our race, like the Nazis hated the Jews. We hate each other because of our racial inequalities. We hate each other because of that. We hate each other because you keep pointing it up, because you keep bringing it up, because you keep doing this. And yet, for all of that, my fear is that we are 7 days away from hate like we have never, ever seen before in our lifetimes. Something we have never even imagined is what I fear. As a nation, as a people, we are sitting now at that fireplace that Heydrich was sitting at. We're around that thing and we're listening to the stories. We're listening to our history talk to us. The warnings from our past. Maybe we get it, but we don't care. Maybe we don't get it. And we still don't care. Like Thomas Jefferson all those years ago, there's a brilliant scene in the John Adams HBO docudrama where Adams and Franklin and Jefferson are sitting around the table as they are the committee to redraft the final draft of the Declaration of Independence. And Jefferson had initially put into there an entire paragraph condemning the King of England for the evils of slavery. Jefferson, a slave owner, had done this. And Adams particularly convinces him to take that out because if we do this, the southern states won't go with us. A pragmatic view of what we actually need to accomplish with this document is not the ending of slavery. Thomas Jefferson says, I wish we could end it, but I have no idea how to do it. One of the most brilliant minds in all of history admits that he has no clue how to do something that he recognizes need to be done. We're the same way. We know that this hatred is going to kill us. We know that this hatred is going to eat us. It's going to destroy us. But we have no clue whatsoever how to stop it, do we? Despite all of our history, despite thousands of years of humans saying things about this, we have no clue what to do. Reinhard Heydrich, a few weeks after that conference where he reiterated that story to Eichmann and Mueller, was attacked by partisans and mortally wounded. And as he lay on his deathbed, in fact, the day before he died, he said this: "The world is just a barrel organ which the Lord God turns himself. We all have to dance to the tune which is already on the drum." It's a sad final words, as it were. Heydrich is almost excusing his behavior and his actions in saying that I was locked into it. There was nothing I could do. And it's even more tragic when you consider that those words, he was quoting his own father, who had written an opera that contained that passage. But the real question is, are we really doomed to just dance the tune on the barrel organ? Are we really, in fact, locked into the place where, because you're a Republican, you have to think this way, and because you're a Democrat, you have to think that way, and because you're that, I can never, ever, ever, ever not just befriend you, I can't even respect you? Are we really at that point? Have we really reached that fireplace where we're standing there like Adolf Eichmann going, I don't get the story. I don't understand the moral. I don't understand what it means to potentially not hate someone just because they're different. Eddie Van Halen once said, it's a catch-22. They hate you if you're different. They hate you if you're the same. Isn't that sad? Isn't it scary that we're a week away from literally allowing the hate to consume us in ways that could never have been imagined before? All because no one in this country, no one, and I'm looking at myself as well, none of us have the moral courage to stand up and say, you know what? We've allowed this to divide us in ways that never should have been allowed. We've allowed this to consume us. We've allowed our hatred to get to the point where we are literally no different than Reinhard Heydrich, who was willing to annihilate an entire race because of his hatred. And look where it got him. He died believing that he had no choice. That's not what we're taught, is it? It's not what we really believe. It's not what we say we believe. Both sides of us say that we're people of faith. Both sides say that we believe in God and free will, for the most part. I know there's some Calvinists out there, but you get the idea. And yet we choose to hate. Why? Because it's easier. Far easier. And yet, in the long term, it's far harder, isn't it? What MLK said. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Hate is just too much. And in a week, we're going to see just how far that hatred really going to be willing to go. Are we going to stand by the grave of what used to be our lives, what used to be our country, and weep? Or will we just stand there silently? Because that'll say a lot about us, won't it?